this is Christina, and this channel's In the Garden. And today we're checking on our seedlings and watering things, and going from January to February and right into March right away, we're going to continue planting things. One of the things you can plant, or one of the things you can order right now, and I ordered from Eden Brothers, was anemones and ranunculus. Anemones and ranunculus are like a bulb, but they're called corums when they're this small. This is a corum of ranunculus. It almost looks like dahlia tubers if you like dahlias. And this is an anemone corum. Looks much like an acorn. This is the point down, and the sprout would come from here for the flowers. Both of these are flowers. I ordered a couple samples from Eden Brothers, and the only ones that came out were the ones that technically should be planted in fall. So these particular mix is called Moments in Time. That's their blend. It's spring and late to spring blooms. And so if you live in a zone 8, 9, 10, 11, you can have these in your yard year round. They are perennials and they'll come back every year, and you don't need to pull them out. If you live in a zone 7 or below, you're going to plant them at some point in time in the spring, and you will keep them out until the fall, and then you'll bring them back in, cut the tops of the flowers off, let these corums dry out, and you're going to store them until you can plant them again. Now, also we ordered some dahlia seeds from Amazon actually, and all of these seeds, this is the, see if I can pull it up for you. This is what a dahlia seed looks like. Really tiny. And the directions on even the dahlia seeds was to soak them for 24 to 48 hours. Same thing with the corums. When they dehydrate and store, it is completely without moisture, because that's what allows them to store without rotting. And so before you plant these, you're going to want to hydrate them. That's why I have them in water here. So we've got 2 of the ranunculus and 1 of the anemone. Now, let's talk about pre-sprouting. So pre-sprouting just means we can't put these into the landscape. So just like the seeds, we're going to start them indoors. I went ahead and grabbed these 2 for both the ranunculus. So let's put that one over there, and the anemones. I'm going to use smaller cells for the dahlia seeds, but pre-sprouting allows them to grow on in the greenhouse until they can be put outside. They don't like the frost, and so we want to not put them out until after we have passed the point when there is no risk of freezing. And so what we're doing to pre-sprout them on is, you can, and I have in the past, just taken a dish like this without slots, put dirt in it. You put a layer of dirt, you put your corums, and then a layer of dirt. I went ahead and decided, because I wasn't going to use these for anything else, that I'm going to do a circular hole and then push these down in there. Now, this size is about 2 by 2, so I don't have to move them up until we see some shoots here. And then you might move them into a, let's see, a container this size or something bigger. And then you're still going to grow them here in the greenhouse until all risk of frost has passed. And then you can plant them in the ground. Again, they're perennial. So in this case, it's not like a bulb. So if you're in zone 7 like me, we're planting our bulbs in the fall. They stay, tulips and hyacinth and daffodils, they stay in the ground until they come up every spring. These could do that if you're in zone 8 or above. But since we're not, we're pulling them out at the end of the year, cutting them off, and then storing them and re-sprouting them later. So it might seem like a lot of work, but these flowers are very fun to grow. They're very beautiful, and they put off some of the most beautiful foliage and flowers. The flowers are commonly used in a lot of weddings and a lot of bouquets and a lot of flower arrangements. So they're one of the flowers that I want to grow myself this year. I didn't have any luck in prior years pre-sprouting these because I didn't give them enough attention. So things to think about when you're planting these. They don't need light to germinate, and they'll do fine in cool, dark places. So because it's winter and it's not super sunny, I'm not going to put them on my rack over here that has lamps. I'm going to leave them right here on the table, or I'm going to put them on the ground because they don't need light. They just need a cool, damp place to be until they sprout. So you could just fill this with a little bit of dirt, put the corum in like I said, and then cover it with dirt. I went ahead and filled these up, so for me I'm going to have to make a well. So there's my little well. It doesn't need to be deeper than that, and then we're just going to cover it over. Now once you see green sprouts, you can start fertilizing these. So we don't need to fertilize the corum before we see any green sprouts. But once we do, we can fertilize these as you would anything else. Let's put that, okay, and just push that over. These truly do look like little dahlias, if you remember our video from when we sectioned off our dahlias and stored them. Some of these are quite big for this cell. There we go. Now I'm going to also top these with vermiculite to keep the moisture in. And if you see a straggler like this, just go ahead and shove that in with the others. Okay, we'll pop that in, put the big piece right there. And again, you just scooch that down. Okay, now this was the water it came in. Oh, we've got a couple here. I don't know if those will actually sprout, but I'm going to use the water to water them in. So those came off, so I'm just going to stick them in there. I don't think they belong to any of the specific corums that were in there. If they sprout, great. If not, they'll just go back to the earth. Okay. And to cover the ones I've already done, I'm just going to go like that. And I can see where I've already been. Now we have another jar because I'm using baby food jars. And when they all were dehydrated, you guys, they fit in these little jars. But as they hydrated, they actually needed to fit in 2 jars. So let's put that one over here. Okay, so we're going to have all the way up to these 2 cells. So I won't put vermiculite over those because that will remind me that I wasn't able to have enough to plant in there. That one fit nicely. Okay, so you're making your well. Again, this is where the sprout's going to come from. These are the tendrils, if you will, and we're just going to scoot that in there. Right. You can see on this one where the growth came out last year. And essentially, when you're pulling these up before the end of the year, before your first frost, you're just pulling them up from the whole root system, grabbing them out, and cutting right where that one shows you to cut right before the corum. Now, these will multiply, so you should get, from one bulb like this, you should get 3 or 4. So every year, if you're practicing, just like we did with the dahlias and just like I've done with the amaryllis, you should be getting more and more every year if you're keeping up with these. All right. Okay, we're just going to put vermiculite where we planted. Okay. These were ranunculus. Those are going to be our anemones. So let's switch. Okay, now these will be a lot easier because they're kind of meant to go in a hole. So they kind of go down. So here, let me show you. So you just plop that right in, push it down. Whereas the ranunculus kind of have like reaching hands and arms trying to prevent it from going down into the divot. So these are a lot easier. You always want to point the pointy part down and where it looks pretty obvious that it came out of the flower. There we go. Oh, look at that big one. I feel like that was trying to make two. And again, just about the same, which makes sense because the head count was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 of each that I got sent out. Now, I did order multiples of these. They just won't send the other ones because they're spring bulbs. You plant them out in the spring. Eden Brothers, like a lot of companies, send you the product when it's in season. And so the other ranunculus I can plant out in the spring specifically. These could have been planted in the fall in a zone that allowed for zones 8 through 11, like I said, where they're not going to be pulled out of the ground. All right. Now again, these are not going to go under the grow lights. These can just sit here on the counter or on the floor because they want cold and somewhat dark. It doesn't have to be very dark. It's just that they don't need light to germinate and they can just sit there. So let's move these ones out of the way. Now with our anemones and ranunculus on the floor, we're going to finish this out with dahlias. Now the dahlias want light to germinate, so we're going to place the seed right on top. This is me draining the water off. This is what the seed looks like. I'm going to plant 2 seeds per cell, even though these cells are small. My hope is that we'll get really good germination in each cell. So I'm going in here and I'm just putting 2. I went ahead and soaked the whole seed packet because I don't want the dahlia seeds to go bad, so I want to use them all this year. So 2 per cell, and each of these are 16 cells. This is Epic Gardening's 16 cell seed start kit that they have. They have others, 6 cells, 4 cells, all of that. I like theirs because they're very durable. These ones have a little hole in the bottom. You would use like a pencil or some kind of stick to push them up. That way you're not disturbing the roots. And the cool thing about the 16 cells, if you want to sow a lot of something like we're doing today, you can sow them in these smaller cells and then just bump them up without them taking up a lot of room. A little tedious, but if we get all of our seeds to germinate, we'll have 32 new dahlias. And dahlias I've only grown in the past from tubers, so this will be the first year I grow them from seed. And again, light to germinate, so you're going to put a little vermiculite or perlite on top if you like perlite, and then you're going to put these under lights. And it did say if it's colder outside, if your temperature in your greenhouse is not in the 70s and is more like the 60s, then you're looking at an extra 5 to 7 days for germination. and germination is about 5 to 7 days. So if your greenhouse is not super warm, then you probably are looking at 2 weeks total. Some of these are getting 3 seeds because they're wet and sticking together, so I'm not going to fuss about it. You can thin them out or spread them apart when they come up. I'll probably go with spreading them apart. Now, if we want to, we have several that we could keep going with. And here is the vermiculite. So if you're wondering, well, how does this work? Because the vermiculite is covering it, how does the light go through? Well, vermiculite is a very light, spongy, airy material compared to soil. And so light will actually penetrate better through that. It'll also hold the moisture in as we're trying to get these to germinate. Because I have more seeds, I'm going to go ahead and grab another cell tray. So I already have this one here. So I think let's just try to finish these off. Can't imagine needing more than 3 16 cell trays. Let me show you. So the ones that I'm noticing right away that are opening are like that one and that one. Oh, we've got a couple in there. Let's add the vermiculite. So from here, we're going to label this last one. So we're going to call this Dahlia Mix, planted on 216. I'm going to save the other dahlia seeds and just set them over here. And that's it for today. So if you're still planting things for the spring, everyone is. It's kind of the mode. So if you're seeing a lot of videos out there about seed planting, you pretty much, I was looking through my seed packets and pretty much you're planting seeds from now till May. So there's never a time that we're not seed planting. You just might be outside in the garden quite a bit between April and June, because that's when we're taking things out of the greenhouse and into our landscapes and into our gardens. So with that, I hope you enjoyed the video. This is my first year on the dahlias by seed. I'd love to know if you've grown dahlias from seed. And while I'm thinking about it, I'll probably check our dahlia tubers and see if there's moisture in there and if it's staying moist, because you don't want the tubers to dry out. That would cause the tuber to die. And then we've continued to plant over here seedlings, and very soon it's going to get very busy in the greenhouse, and we'll be excited for the last frost date so that we can get things out. Anyway, thank you so much. I hope you guys are having a wonderful weekend, enjoying the snow like we are, and I will see you in the next video.